Okay, excellent. So I just have a statement up front that I have to make.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, this opening establishes your release and permission to use your likeness, image and video and/or audio recording. You hereby give the consent to B-Story Pictures or subsequent companies that houses the East Hammond, the Village Grapevine project. Further, you acknowledge that you give us for gratis irrevocable worldwide rights in perpetuity, regardless of whether these materials are used for advertising, promotion, education, publicity, or any other purpose on behalf of the company. The acquired digital files will remain the property of B-Story Pictures, its subsidiaries or agents. Finally, you waive all rights, claims, and damages. The exploitation of the recording and oral history is acquired for the purposes of education, history, and to uplift the city of East Hammond and its residents. You attest that you fully understand the aforementioned. Do you agree?
I do.
Okay, cool. So, so I just want you to start off by just saying your name, your age, and what street you grew up on.
Okay, you want married name? You want my name now?
Just
Not my maiden.
first give me give me your maiden name and then say what it changed to.
Okay, Fran Blackman, now Fran Alexander, grew up at 1029 Field Street in East Hammond, Indiana.
Okay, so tell me your mother and father, just a little bit of information about them. Give me their names and who you grew up in the house with.
Okay, my father was Robert Blackman Sr., my mother, Sadie Blackman. I'm one of 7 siblings, 4 brothers and 2 sisters.
Okay, can you list them? Can you say their
Sure.
names?
There was Robert Blackman Jr. or Bobby, Eugene Willard Blackman, me, Fran Blackman. There were twins, Roel and Roland, Kenneth Blackman, and Thelma Blackman.
Okay, so can you tell me, where did your parents come from? Were they born in Indiana, or did they come from the South, or wherever? How did they get to Hammond?
All right. My dad was born in Tunica, Mississippi, and his father, my grandfather, Warren Blackman Sr., and my grandmother, Christine, migrated up to the north for better jobs. My mother was born in Jackson, Mississippi, but moved to East Chicago, Indiana at a very young age, and all of her schooling was done in East Chicago, East Chicago, graduating from Washington High School in East Chicago.
Okay, so what did your father do for a living? So as soon as he got here, he started working in what professions?
Yes, okay. He graduated from Hammond Tech and started working in the steel mill, and then he had a little side business of his own. Had like a pool hall, quotes unquotes, and the front of it was like we sold ice cream cones, and there was barbecue, and there was Polish sausages, and there was shrimp.
Okay. That was a full service.
Yes.
Okay, cool. What was the name of the pool hall?
Blackman. Let's just say his nickname was Rabbit, but let's just say it was Rabbit's Pool Hall. I'm guessing, but I say to that. Now somebody's calling. Hang on 1 minute, Bobby.
Okay, sure, go ahead.
No, I won't take it. I can call back.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So Rabbit's Pool Hall, and
yes.
What street was this on?
That was on Conkey Street, 1113 Conkey, Conkey, East Hammond.
Okay. And at one point I want to get back to Conkey Street, but for now, so your father was working in the steel industry initially.
Right.
And then and it was inland steel, right?
That's right.
Okay. And so so when did he have time to do the pool hall? Just anytime he was not in inland, he would be working in the pool hall?
Yeah, it would be like he did the day shift, so it would be anything in the evening. And then he had several brothers. They would help him run the pool hall until my father could get there. And when Bobby and Jeannie got older, they could help out to also open up and run that during if my father was at work.
Oh, okay. Okay, cool. So, briefly, can you, the house that you grew up on, can you just tell me some of your neighbors, like who lived around you?
Okay. On the right side of us were the Lovelies, Julia and Ed
Okay.
Lovely, and they had the same denomination of children, 4 boys and 3 girls, and they lived on the top floor. The bottom was your mom, Lavera, and her sister Robbie, with your grandmother, Lily Williams, and her mother. They lived at
Okay.
1029. I'm sorry, 1020. No, we were 1029. They must have been 1027. And then on the
Okay.
left hand of us, there was Miss the Freemans, Miss Frances Freeman, and right now her husband's first name eludes me. Next door
Okay.
to her were the oh God, what was her name? I'll come back to that also. And then next door
Okay.
to them was the Paytons. I can't think of, there was a
Is
couple Payton's family, but I can't think of their
okay.
name. But their
Is that
children
Janice
was,
Payton you're talking about?
no, they lived
Jan-
down, they lived on the other side. This was their cousins that lived on the same side of the street that we lived on.
Oh,
And there was
okay.
Carol Lee, and anyway, there were, I think, 4 girls. And then it
Okay.
was, at that time, it was a mixed neighborhood. Next door to them lived a white family. Can't think of their name either. And then on the corner were a family of the, shoot. See, if I'd have known some of these questions, I probably had time to think about it, Bobby. I can see them, but I
Okay.
can't think of their names right now. Hopefully, maybe they'll come back
Okay.
to me. Then across the
Okay.
street was a
Mhm.
Baptist church.
Okay. Do you know?
Uh,
Remember the name of it?
It was associated with Brooks House, but I don't remember
Okay.
the name. There was a Baptist church, and we used to roller skate right there in the front and around the corner to Brooks House, which was our little community center.
Uh huh.
But also on Field Street at the 1000 blocks, the Walkers lived there. Um, Herman and Bessie Walker, and then their children.
Okay.
They had their children. I don't remember, but I don't know. Let me see. There was Joanne, and there was Fifi. I think there was about 5 or 6 of them. But the Walkers lived
Okay.
there. And then next door to the Walkers were my grandmother and grandfather, Warren and Christine Blackman. Next
Okay.
door to them were the Harpers. And next door to them were the Johnsons. I don't know if you remember hearing people talk about Jerome and Carl Johnson
Uh
and
huh.
their sister
Right.
Elva. Can't think of their parents' name right now either. And then next door to them, I think, was a Caucasian family. And then came the other cousins of some more set of the Paytons, and he was a minister. He was Reverend, can't remember his name, and his wife. And then they had, there was, the Paytons was Janice Payton and her
Mhm.
brother Ronnie, and they had a younger brother. Then next door to them was a little candy store. And the name of that candy store was, that all compiled the 1100 block of East Hammond. Now, next door to the Lovelies were Shanghai. What was Shanghai's mother's name? Miss Lola. Lola, and I can't think of her name. What was Shanghai's last name? Maybe that'll come back to me also. Then next door to them were, they just honored him today. Remember Jaspers? The Jaspers
Okay.
lived
Yes.
next door to Miss Lola. And then next door to the Jaspers was Dr. Bethia, Dr. and Mrs. Bethia. And then on the other side of them was another family. They were the Pakowski family. They were a Polish family that lived there. Next door to them was the Sims, Mr. and Mrs. Sims. And then there was another house on the corner. I think they were Caucasian. I don't remember their last name either. That compiled that 1000 block of Field Street.
Okay. So you mentioned at that time, what year was it that you grew up? You were like growing up. Was it the early 50s or the
or I was born.
The 40s?
Yeah, that was like the early 40s.
40s.
Yeah, because I was born in 1941. Yeah, so the 40s, the 50s, 60s.
Okay, the 40s.
Probably then they begin to maybe like disperse.
Okay. And you mentioned some Polish families.
Right.
So East Hammond at that time was a mixed environment?
That's right.
Okay. And
right.
So how was it? I mean, was there any kind of did everyone get along? Was there any kind of animosity because there was blacks and whites, or
yeah, we did on our street. We were okay, but when blacks did not live after you get to Highland Street on. There were no blacks on Highland Street. We were all what's that next one? Morris.
Mm-hmm.
Morris, and then it became Fields, and then what was that? The Fields, Ames, I believe, Kenwood, and Cleveland. And we all blacks lived all in the 10 and the 1100 block.
Okay. And so was it just understood that you couldn't live, past the park, or
at that time, yes,
or forbidden?
At that time, realtors did not sell to blacks from Highland on if you were going north.
Ah, okay.
Mm-hmm.
And so what schools did you guys, Bobby and everybody, did they go to Hammond High or did they go to Tech?
Okay, my brother, we all went to Maywood. Everybody that lived in East Hammond at that time went to Maywood School.
Okay.
And then my brother, all of us, the Blackmans, the Lovelies, the Cherries, all graduated from Hammond High. There were maybe some in between that went to Tech, but the majority of us went to Hammond High.
Okay. And at that time, what do you think the percentage of blacks at Hammond High was?
Oh, probably maybe 1%, because I was like the only black in my high school the only black girl in my high school graduation. About 4 or 5 of us started out, but they got pregnant in their teens, so they naturally quit. My brother Bobby was the only black student in his class. My brother Gene, I think there might have been 2 or 3. It was myself, Irvin Cross, and Jerome Johnson graduated out of a class of like 649 students. 3 of us were black. Mm-hmm.
So you guys seem like the first blacks to do a bunch of things. And I understand you were one of the first black nurses in Hammond, or tell me, what were you the first black of?
Let me see. I trying to think. There were some before. Oh no, there were some before me. You remember the Foltz that live on where did they live? Cleveland Street. Did you remember the Foltz?
Yes.
Connie and Joan and all of them. Well, their oldest sister Mary. Mary was before me. She graduated about 3 years before I did in nursing from St. Margaret's. Yeah.
Okay, so Mary Folks was one of the first.
Was Mary the first black nurse? She and another one, Dorothy, used to be a Dorothy Daniel. I can't think of her maiden name. They were all older than me. So I know I wasn't the first. Maybe within the first maybe 3 or 4 I'd be okay in saying. Yeah, they live right on that corner house on the 1000 block in on Cleveland Street.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
Mary Foltz.
Mary Folks. Yeah. I
Yeah.
actually I talked to Joan today.
Did you?
So yeah, I'll have to talk to Mary as well.
Do you have a
So
telephone number for her while it's on my mind?
oh, which
You
one?
could always get it from Joan. I can say I know I do have a number because she's now
Oh,
Mary Mayberry.
oh, Mayberry.
Yeah,
Okay.
she's now Mary Mayberry.
Okay. What is it? While I have
Okay.
what's on your mind?
Well, like I said, I'd have to get it. Let me see.
Oh, okay. No, it's okay. We'll get it. We'll get it later.
Okay. All
Um,
right.
tell me, during that environment of the 40s and 50s, where you guys are, playing outside, and were you playing with the white kids as well as the black kids,
Oh
or
yes, because
was it
like I
one?
see, it was diversified. There was a lot of whites that lived on Ames Street, Kenwood, Cleveland. Yeah, so we could play with them. There was a bakery that we used to could
Uh-huh.
go and get bakery goods. There were several stores. I remember on Conkey Street there was a store called Vic's, VIC', and he was very, very good too. Most of the black families, because there were so many kids, and we could go there and buy food, and whatever we had, if it was 50 cents or if it was 75 cents, he would give us enough that the family could be fed. Say, for instance, if we wanted to, my dad would send us to the store to get a pound of bologna, and if the bologna was 39 cents a pound and we only had 30, Vic would give it to us. The bakery would be the same thing. If you could get a dozen of donuts, say for 50 or 75 cents, whatever we have, they would accept that.
Would they just give it to you, or put the balance on the books?
No,
Or
they would just give it to us, and then.
okay. So they literally ran their business off of all the people in the community, white or black. So it
That's
wasn't
right.
like,
That's right.
okay. So those would you say Conkey Street? Let's just talk about Conkey Street for a second. Was that a diversified entrepreneurship in terms of black people owning
Businesses,
stuff and
yes.
white people?
Yeah, because when we left Field Street and moved over to Conkey Street, next door to us was a white funeral home. And then on that corner, there was a parking lot for the funeral home. And then on the corner was a drugstore. Called them drugstores in those days, not pharmacies. Kozlowski's drugstore. That was right in the corner. And then also in that 1000 block, we had a black barber shop. The Porters, Mr. Porter was a black barber. And Mr. Al Cherry had a cleaners. And there was a liquor store that was owned by, I knew I was going to forget. Anyway, there was a liquor store there in the corner. And then across from Mr. Cherry's, Mr. Ruffin, what was his name? Jack Ruffin had a little social club, nightclub there called the Cave, C-A-V-E. And that was right next door to the White Vic's store.
Okay.
And then actually my dad's business was there.
Oh, the pool hall.
The pool hall was right across from the barber shop, Mr. Porter's barber shop.
Okay. And so would you say that pool hall, and just most of the businesses that were on Conkey Street, was that, thing that I would assume that most people worked at maybe Pullman Standard or Inland Steel,
right?
Most of those factories. Would you say that was kind of Hammond's version of a kind of a Black Wall Street, so to see, in the sense that that's where they went to go,
Yes, I can say a lot of a lot of money is generated from those small businesses. Because I know my dad working at the steel mill plus his pool hall and everything, that's how we were fed and clothed, able to go to school with decent clothes on. And it would be the same with the Cherries and the same with the Ruffins. All of us had those businesses.
Okay. So what is your the entrepreneurship, I just wanted to talk about, was it easier to start businesses at that time, from the little, I don't know, barbershops to the pool halls to the grocery stores, the small little cafes? Was it easier to start businesses then, or not?
Yeah, it was. To start them, yes. Because it just, every now and then you would see, now there were whites that were living there in East Hammond. And just like for my dad's business, yes, they would come and they'd get the barbecue on the weekends and the ice cream, whatever. I don't recall Mr. Porter having any white customers to get their hair cut. Maybe he did. You know, I wasn't there on a daily basis. Mr. Cherry had a cleaners. I know there were white folks that took clothes there to be cleaned. I never saw anybody at the cave because it was East Hammond. I guess they figured that was for the blacks. But the grocery store, you saw a diversity of folk there. The Polish people came there, and the blacks came there. And we had very, very, very few. I think we had one or two maybe Spanish families.
Okay. Now, who owned the grocery store?
This a white guy named Vic. I never knew his
Vic.
last name. We just knew it was Vic's grocery store.
Okay, that's the Vic's grocery store.
That's
Okay.
Vic's grocery store, yeah. And then in the let me see, that was 1100 block. In the 1000 block, do you remember hear people talk about Brooks House? That was a community center for us. At Brooks House, there was a lot of things. Oh my God, there was after-school programs. There was a library there. There was always things during the different seasons. We would have Easter programs, Christmas programs. You could go to summer camp. Did you hear anybody say anything about going to Camp Okolona?
Yes.
In your interviews, yeah. That generated out of Brooks House. There would be a bus that would take us, and it was a small fee. And we would go and we would stay for a week. And we thought it was like staying forever, right? But anyway, that was wonderful. Yeah. Brooks House offered a lot of things, and they had teachers that were certified. These were real teachers that had gone to college, and like I said, there was a tutoring program, and you know, it was a wonderful little neighborhood center.
Okay, and that was, you know, I guess sort of like your boys and girls club of America kind of thing.
Yes, something similar to that, I guess. Not that familiar. I just have heard of Boys and Girls, but is it all recreational, or do they do tutoring and this type of thing? I don't know. But Brooks House offers some of everything.
Right. So do you know the inception of Brooks House? Did it start out like an all-white establishment, and then it transitioned because of the...
I don't think so, because I remember my mother taking us to Brooks House, you know, for any and everything. Before we went to, there was a nursery school. We'd go up there for things before we went to kindergarten. So I know for me, and I'm in my 70s, and we always have gone to Brooks House.
Okay. I just mentioned that because when I went to the library, I saw Brooks House, of older pictures of Brooks House, and they had a group shot, and everybody in front of it was white.
Well, how long ago was that? Maybe in the 40s, 50s?
It might be the 30s or 40s, but that's why I asked that question, because I was wondering how far back it went that it was all white.
Yeah. That's a good question. Very possible, but like I said, we've been going to Brooks House since I was like 3 or 4 years old.
Okay. Okay. So it changed with the makeup of the community.
Yes, most definitely.
Okay. So as far as Conkey Street, and I understand that, you know, at one point when redevelopment came in, the mandate was to put single dwelling homes there instead of was this a community kind of, did the community concur on this and say, look, we want to get rid of that area how it is? I don't know if it was the taverns or whatever that gave people the impression that it was not a good place, or why do you think they transferred it to a housing area
Housing,
as
yeah.
opposed to a business.
Now that I can't speak on because by that time I had relocated. I left in 1970 and I moved
Okay.
to California. So naturally all that was happening while I was gone. I'd come home and I would see the beginnings of it and everything. And I just remember my parents telling me redevelopment is coming through and they're tearing down because most of those homes, Bobby, were so old, you know,
Hmm.
and most of maybe did that have something to do with it? I don't know.
Okay.
Mhm.
Okay. Now, do you feel, or I'll just say, how do you feel about all those businesses? Because your father had a business there, but
Right.
all those businesses had. I don't know if they were promised to. Some people said they were promised to move those businesses to other areas, like on Columbia or wherever, but that kind of never happened. And
Oh, see, don't know. I don't know about that. Very possibly true. Mhm.
okay.
Yeah. Now let me see. Did your dad have a barbecue place there on Columbia?
No, he had a
Fish. Yeah,
fish
that's what it was.
store.
Yeah, that's what it was. Uh-huh.
Yeah, but so now I guess this is more of a philosophical question. Do you
Uh-huh.
think that with the with I guess the revitalization and removing all of those businesses, do you
Uh-huh.
think it took away a little bit of the entrepreneurship of blacks wanting to start from little stores to, maybe the larger
I
establishments?
think
Do you think it
so.
took that away?
Sure, I think so because we have nothing now. See, we have no black businesses there.
Right, right.
Mhm. So I
And
kind
it,
of
it
think so.
kind of appears that the whole spirit of thinking that you can get stuff happening, it's kind of dissipated. Um, and I know that through the Small Business Administration and other ways of getting businesses up and going, I don't know if maybe that information is not around,
Mhm.
and people don't know how to do
How to
it,
get?
or.
I'm like you. Cause see, most of all those that had them, they're all dead. You know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
So I don't know a definitive answer for that. Yeah.
Right, right. So, do you think it's do you think people have the information, or do you think that, see, at the time, it appears that, some of those buildings were owned by, I guess, white
Exactly.
landlords, and then
Exactly.
they just rented it to black people.
Well, now my father, for I can speak for us. I know he bought ours because I remember he and my mom sitting down and, "Well, do you think we can afford this?" and blah blah blah. And in those days, when your rent and stuff was like $175, that's a lot of money. You know what I'm
Hmm.
saying? And I
Right.
remember him buying our building. I don't know about the others. I know the Cherries had their cleaners in the front. They lived in the back. Now, whether they bought or whether they rented, again, I don't know. But I know my father was buying our property there, 1113 Conkey. Have you had a chance to talk to Tina?
I did. I talked
Okay.
to her, and I've talked to about maybe 30, 40 people so far.
Oh, okay.
And but the goal is over 100. So
Yeah.
I've only just begun. So, uh, but once we get snippets from everybody, and
Right.
you get a better idea of all the stuff that you don't remember, somebody else remembers.
Exactly. Exactly.
And
Yeah,
so,
because I'm sure you've talked to the McClendon boys, haven't you?
Teddy McClendon is a part of this, and
Okay.
so Teddy and I got together after I went to the library and didn't find the appropriate documentation on
Uh-huh.
blacks in East Hammond. I called Teddy up, and we had a conversation. I said, Teddy, there's nothing about black people in Hammond. Are we just don't exist, or
Yeah,
what's
yeah.
happening? And he's
Mhm.
like, well, what'd you expect? And so I
Yeah,
said,
yeah.
okay.
Exactly.
So
Exactly.
uh, and then at that point, I actually called Paul Walker, and I said, Paul, I looked at the photos that were in the library, and there's no large representation of the black people in
Mhm.
Hammond. and other people had told me, well, you better call Paul because Paul has a great
Yep, a
collection.
lot of stuff. Right, right.
Right. And then also Mr. McClendon.
Also Edwina. Have you talked to Edwina?
I had, she's on my list, and
Okay.
every time I call her, she's painting. So I
Uh-oh,
have
and
to.
she busy. Yeah, because
She busy.
I think Edwina was like the first black cheerleader at Hammond High. I think now, Bobby, I may be wrong.
Yes.
She
Yeah, other
was.
people have told me that.
That's what
Yes.
I thought, yeah.
Right. So I'm going to get her story when she gets done. When she wipes the paint off her, I'm going to get her story. And she's my cousin, so you know I have
Yes.
to get her.
Yeah.
So I said, Weena, you better find an hour to talk to me. But
Uh-huh.
anyway, but I'm going to talk to her while I'm here this time.
Good.
So in your estimation, at that time, when you were saying from elementary to high school, can you think of who were the movers and shakers, the people who got stuff done?
Done.
In
Yeah.
in Hammond?
Okay. Okay. That again. There. I would say that the McClendons,
Okay.
and then I would say Blackmans,
Okay.
and the Lovelies, and the Cherries,
Okay.
Pearline and James Jenkins, uh,
Okay.
um, uh, and also the churches, Reverend A.R. Burns and Mrs. Burns, from Mount Zion. Because, in East Hammond back there in those days, you either went to Mount Zion or you went to St. John. Or do you remember the little church on Kenwood, which they tell me is still, or is it Ames, the little apostolic church that's there? That was Talaferro. Those ministers were instrumental in doing. Paul Lewis, you remember Paul Lewis? Was he the first black postman or something?
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
Paul Lewis. Who else can we say?
When you said Teleferro, he was a minister?
Yeah. Did you remember? What's
Is that
Talaferro?
Crystal's father, Crystal Teleferro?
No, that her father was. That would be her grandfather. See, her father
Okay, her
married
grandfather.
Audrey. What was it? Charlie Talaferro, and he's Charlie Jr. The senior Reverend Talaferro was the one who started that apostolic church. And like I say, it's in existence today. Mount Zion, existence today. St. John, existence. The doors are open today.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah.
And
You know what,
now
Dad?
they're just inundated with churches. Somebody told me there's something like maybe 21, 22 black churches throughout East Hammond, and that's
Is
what
that
they
right?
that's what they tell me.
Okay. All right. I
Yeah.
did because I know the New Hope and different churches popped up.
Yeah, they have
I didn't
quite
know
a
there's
few.
22. That's
Yeah,
a lot.
somebody told
Okay.
me there's a couple over by. Do you remember where Wallace Grade
Wells Road.
School? Yeah, they said there's about 2 blacks over in there where the whites have taken flight now. See?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Ah. Okay. Okay.
And then
So
there's
those were
several
the.
downtown on Holman Street, I'm told.
Uh huh. Oh
Mm-hmm.
yes, there's a Baptist over there on
Yeah.
Holman.
Yeah.
Okay. So when those black people who were the movers and shakers, so how did that work out? Was it mainly like a person like Reverend Burns who wanted to start implementing something, or did people start organizations or committees of things to get
Things
progress?
going.
Or
Yeah.
yeah.
Now, again, I would have to speculate, but I would think that they probably would. It was just not one individual or one individual family. I think that they probably at some time, did they meet at churches? Probably, because we did not have a center that we could meet in. And did they say, we need to do this, do that? I'm going to stick my neck out and say they probably did.
Okay. Now, was Pearline NAACP at that time?
Yeah.
Pearline
Not
Jenkins?
at that time. No. She became president. Oh, now see, I'm guessing because again, I was gone for 33 years. I just know she was a dynamic president. I came home and there were many event that would happen, and she was president. I'm gonna Albertine would be more instrumental in telling you when. Although, did you save that book from today, Bobby?
Yes.
Okay, that
Yes, I
would
did.
probably have her reign of service in there. But I'm going to
Okay.
say maybe 50s, 60s through maybe
Okay.
the 70s, maybe even the 80s, because she served till she was, I think well in her 70s.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So I was told, maybe you know, that some women had these little groups
Yeah,
that
different
they
little
got
clubs they
together,
called them.
clubs, like
Yeah.
Miss Cherry. Like do you know any of these
Yes.
groups?
Yeah. One club I know. In fact, they're still active. I'm told, called Tapitha Kayla. Little social civic groups, maybe we call them. But there's Tapitha Kayla.
Uh-huh.
Let me see. Tapitha Kayla. What else? I'm seeing something like from Mount Zion, Bobby, but I just can't think of it now.
Hmm.
But now you know
And
we
they're,
have what.
no, go ahead.
Yeah, they have what they call a Black Ministerial Alliance now, and I don't remember them having those when we were kids, because like I said, it wasn't that many churches. But now there's a Black Ministerial Alliance,
Okay.
and then naturally NAACP is very, very active, and these social
Right.
clubs. Now, when we were coming up as kids, there were two social clubs that our parents, again, were involved in. That was the Sophisticated Few, and that was my aunt, and that was your aunt, and Julia, and my mother, Pearline Jenkins, Retta Ruffin, and who else was in that? Hannah Cherry,
Uh-huh.
uh, Sadie, Julia, Hannah, Retta, and Willa Brooks. You remember Willa and Earl Brooks?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, now Mr. Earl, had a shoe shine parlor. I think he was down in the Goldblatt's store, if I remember,
Uh-huh.
downtown. And he had the only black shoe parlor there, or in Hammond, I should
Okay.
say. Mm-hmm. Because that was his
Okay.
livelihood. She worked at the Rosalie. You remember a clothing store called
Oh,
Rosalie?
yes.
Yeah, Willa
Exactly.
Brooks worked there. Mm-hmm. Mabel
So,
Wilson.
no, I'm sorry, Mabel Wilson?
Mabel Wilson, yeah, was a seller of dresses at Rosalie.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Seller. And so those stores, were they open to? I mean, at one point, since she's selling clothes,
Yeah,
she's
they'd be
black.
on the
But
floor. Uh-huh.
now, at one point, was it? When did it transition to letting black people
Oh, goodness.
come there?
I remember, again, as a teenager, we started going to Rosalie, Rothschild's. There was a Minus. Now, Minus we could go for Goldblatt's for many, many years.
Hmm.
And there was no trying it on, and you had to buy it. We could try it on in the rack and put it back if we didn't want it. So that's been open
Okay.
to us for many, many years downtown Hammond. And I think the reason why, Bobby, we weren't that much of a threat. See, we didn't have as many black folk as East Chicago had and as Gary had.
Hmm.
Hammond didn't have that many blacks, so we weren't that much of a threat. But I remember
Ah.
as a kid, for many, many years, we could not eat at the diner, Woolworths.
Okay.
Yeah, they had black workers, but we could not eat there. Going to Hammond High, there was some other couple places downtown that we could not go and get hamburgers, but there were other places that we could.
Okay. Okay. So basically, there's a lot of places that you could do certain things, and it didn't seem like the threatening kind of
Yes,
Klan stuff happened
that's right,
in
yeah.
Hammond.
Yeah, because it's not
Okay.
like you would go in there. Case in point, if I went into Rosalie, it might be me and maybe 2, 3 other blacks. Now, that's not saying that there weren't 4 or 5 or 6 that morning or maybe 8 or 9 in that evening. But as you go into stores now, we can be 20, 30 strong in there. but that did not happen, but we still were not scrutinized in particular stores. Again, Minus, Goldblatt's, Rosalie, Rothschild, and there were a couple other little small ones that we could go in and felt okay trying on clothes, putting them back on the rack. They offered us a layaway plan. They had jewelry stores. You could have a layaway plan, and you could go and try the jewelry on.
Okay. Okay. So now, what about the movie theaters? I hear there was like a couple of movie theaters.
Yeah,
I remember one.
the Parthenon. What was it? A Parthenon, and yeah, we had two movies. The Parthenon and the Rio. RIO. Now, the Rio was right there in East Hammond on Columbia Avenue. Yeah, because I remember going there as a kid, going to see Disney pictures and things.
Okay. Did they separate the sections, like the minority section right here, or did they just let everybody
Possibly
come in and
before my time they did, but by the time we were going, we could sit anywhere we wanted to in the theaters. So maybe in the 30s, maybe they couldn't go, and maybe in the 40s when I was younger. But by the time we were teenagers, yeah, we would catch the bus and go down to the Parthenon and sit anywhere we wanted to. The Rio show, sit anywhere we wanted to.
Okay. Do you remember? Do you remember any like newspapers or any kind of tabloids that were black oriented that circulated through Hammond? How did Hammondites get their information?
Now let me see. Probably you heard them talk about the Chicago Defender. Okay, everybody almost in Hammond was black. Everybody subscribed to the Chicago Defender. So we could be abreast of what was going on in the black area. Because we did not have any kind of a circulation for blacks that I can think of. We just had the Hammond Times, and that's what that's where we got our news there, and the Chicago Defender.
Okay. Now, I did hear at one point Mr. McClendon, I think it was the McClendon that just passed away.
Okay. This one that just died maybe about 2-3 months ago?
Yeah, Bill, I think. I heard
Bill from Chicago.
Yes.
Okay.
That at one point he had a magazine called, or a paper, or maybe it was a handout called the, what is it called? The not Voice, the Grapevine.
Oh, okay. Again, probably I was away, probably.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, because I've just been back 10 years, so a lot of that probably maybe happened on.
So as far as the black people in Hammond, East Hammond specifically, when they wanted to get the word out, how would that happen? Was it just
probably
phone
through
call
church,
situation?
probably through church, and maybe word by mouth.
Okay. Okay.
Maybe through NAACP.
Okay. Okay. Do you remember any people who did stuff in Hammond that went on a national level that kind of said, okay, Hammond's on the map now?
Yeah.
Is there anybody who did things? Who might those people be?
Well, Irv Cross became a NFL announcer, TV. Did you remember that? Or you remember him? They're talking about Irv Cross was nationally known. Nationally known. And then the one kid, well, is he nationally known? That Paris, he's not nationally known, is he?
Oh, you're talking about Roland?
Is he the one that's got the McDonald's franchise?
Right, McDonald's. Right,
yeah,
McDonald's.
Yeah. Nationally, I think Irvin was the only one.
Okay.
He was, Lonnie was talking about people today, but again, I don't think it was other than Irvin. Did he call somebody else?
He might have. I have to.
Yeah, I'm thinking that's all I remember Irv nationally because, he was on TV and...
Right.
Uh-huh.
First football, then sports commentator.
Right.
And,
Right.
right. So what about, do you remember any first, like Ronnie Rowe was the first police officer. Do you remember
Right. Right.
any first of anything?
Yeah, let me
Doesn't matter, business or anything.
right, let me see. Well, Annie Burns was the first black teacher in Hammond,
Okay.
Maywood School.
Now, is that Annie Burns Hicks or Annie Hicks?
No, Annie Burns
Or
Hicks. Yeah, her married
okay,
name is Hicks.
okay.
And she's the first black teacher. I think Albertine the first to be black on the school board president. I think she probably was the first black
On
school
school
board
board?
president, Bobby.
Okay.
Don't do that until you really check. You can check with, I bet the
Okay.
Clintons will know. But I know she was on the board and she became president of the school, like for 4 years. So I'm
Right.
thinking she's the first black. I may be wrong. A lot
Now,
of
but
them
then we
ran
also
and stuff.
okay. But you think she'd be okay? I'll put her down and I'll ask that
Yeah,
question.
and ask that question. But I believe she was the first black president of the school board of Hammond.
Okay. Also today they mentioned a black police chief. He was, I guess, the first black police chief.
Yeah, see, I didn't know that either until today.
Yeah. Do you remember his name?
Uh, not,
That's okay.
not,
I'll get it.
okay,
I think
yeah,
he
not off
might
the
have
top of
been in
my
that
head.
booklet too.
Right.
but uh, but but even during the heyday, do
Yeah,
you
that's
remember
right.
any
Now,
of
what
those?
about, was Danny Ruffin, wasn't he the first black fireman?
Danny Ruffin? Okay, I
Firefighter?
didn't know that.
Yeah, did you remember the Ruffins, Herbie and Danny?
Yes.
I think Danny,
Uh,
check it out, check with Paul, but I believe Danny was the first black firefighter. I might be wrong, but I think so.
okay.
And let
Okay.
me see. Who else? First. I'm trying to go down. And then just like Dr. Bethea, wasn't he the first black doctor?
I think so.
Yeah, I think Dr.
And
Bethea, probably the first black doctor.
okay.
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember Dr. Palmer?
Yeah.
Now, did he come after Dr. Bethia?
Oh, yeah, way after. Because Palmer
Okay.
was, when I was doing my student nursing, he was just beginning to be known at St. Margaret's, and he had a, office over in East Hammond. He's a family practitioner. And I think,
Mm-hmm.
I think he's from the islands, I believe.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Islands. Um. Okay. So if you think, and I know that there's a list out there somewhere, so I'm gonna try to find these lists.
Sure, and me too.
Because
I can ask around.
yeah, I just want to compile. We're creating a website right now, and I just
Okay.
want to compile all of the first whatever they are,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and in all fields, just to make sure that they're legitimately a first of whatever it is, because at one point there's groundbreaking activities of blacks that we want to just acknowledge the first of anything. And I know Paul Walker I know he wasn't the first police officer, but I think he was the first police, maybe
Sergeant.
sergeant or something like
Yeah,
that.
sergeant, I think. Yeah, yeah. And just like that nursing thing, Bobby, I believe Mary Foltz. Now, I think she was the first. I may be wrong, but I'm trying to think who else was in nursing from East Hammond. And it was just Mary and me and Dorothy Daniels. Like I said, they were older than me. And so I know I wasn't the first. I think Mary. And ask
Okay.
Joan. You can ask Joan, but I think that was her sister, and I think she was the first in East Hammond.
Right. Well, I have a
Mm-hmm.
phone conversation scheduled with Dorothy
Joan.
Daniels.
Oh, Dorothy. Oh,
Um, yeah, she's in Texas,
right. And then
doing her thing there.
the first dentist, Dr. Board. Do you have him?
Okay.
Yeah,
No. Okay.
B-O-A-R-D, Board. I don't remember his first name, but he was Dr. Board. And then
Okay.
the first black funeral home,
Okay.
wasn't
Funeral.
that, wasn't that Warner?
Warner's. Yeah.
Yeah, I think they were the first black funeral home, weren't they?
I think that is correct.
Yeah, you can find that out. And what else did we have there? First black. Mm,
So did we ever, was there ever any politician we never had any mayors or anything like that, did we?
no. Uh-uh.
Okay, so
Uh,
the highest
do we
offices
have
probably
any?
was,
Well, we got them now, don't we? Like councilmen and stuff. But no, Hammond has
right,
not had a black mayor.
okay, okay.
But now
And
councilmen and all that stuff, I bet Paul Walker can be very instrumental. Because I know we have
yes,
about 2 or 3 now, don't we? I know we have what's his name? Anthony Higgs. I know he's one of them, and
right. Yeah, I don't, he may not have been the first, but I know he's
I'm
one
like you. I
now.
don't think so either. Uh-huh.
Right, right. So in your estimation, what do you think makes or made Hammond a unique community back in the day? What about Hammond do you think was special?
I think that the small percentage that were there, I think everybody was together as a unit. Was there probably maybe some how do I want to say everybody didn't agree with everybody didn't agree with everything that was probably put before them, but there was just not a lot of dissension. It just was not a lot of dissension many years ago.
Okay,
I think
okay.
everybody is one of those love your neighbor type things. We all looked out after each other. If I needed to have a room added onto my house when we were kids,
Uh-huh.
the neighbors got together and did that. Whether they were black, whether they were white or whatever, everybody got together and did it. You know, you didn't pay a company to do it unless it was something big like heating or cooling. But most of our
Uh-huh.
black folk could do small things like building and you know, it's just small stuff and doing stuff like taking the mortar and stuff and doing brickwork and doing stuff that everybody helped each other out.
Mm, mm.
hmm
Do you think that that was because a lot of people were from the South and they came here and it was like they needed to band together for opportunities or
It could
what?
have, and then we knew that the racism was there. You know, would the
Mhm.
white man want to come in sometime and work over in East Hammond? Maybe not, and maybe if we had to just do it ourselves. Um,
Mhm.
and maybe it was just like you said, that continuity of coming from the South and knowing that if we don't do it, stick together ourselves, it would not get done.
Right.
Yeah, because I
Right.
know all the work that my father had done in our house, the Lovelies and all the other, everybody, they got together and helped each other. We do it ourselves, you know. Picnics.
Right.
There was a club called the Sportsman Club, and they would have an annual picnic, and everybody looked forward to go to that annual picnic with the Sportsman Club from East Hammond.
Okay. Now the Sportsman Club, you're the first person that mentioned that.
Okay,
Now,
yeah,
tell me a little bit about that.
yeah, that was a civic club. My dad was part of there, and that again, there was my dad, and there was Ruffin, there was Mr. Brooks, there was Mr. Al Cherry and his dad, there was Mr. Lovely, and who else? Hey, let me see. Ruffin, Earl Brooks, Blackman. I'm looking at the picture right now up on my fireplace. Jenkins, Mr. Jenkins was on there, and I think that's it.
Okay. And
Yeah,
what
but
was their
anyway, they were
mandate?
and they used to have a lot of things. My father would bring, my father brought Nat King Cole, I never forget, to the Civic Center one year.
Okay.
Yeah, and
Okay.
yeah, and things like that with that social club. They would have affairs like that.
Mm. And
hmm
it's interesting when you said they brought Nat King Cole because my mother at one point Aunt Robbie told
Okay.
me that my grandmother Lily McClendon had, they said it was, I don't know if it was a secret or what, but some people who performed came and they stayed at her house because they couldn't stay in the
At the
hotel,
hotels,
and
right.
they mentioned Nat King Cole.
Oh,
Um,
really? It's very
yes.
possible. Some of them stayed because they were right next door. Well, they lived next door to us, but when my dad brought them, we had moved to Conkey Street, but it's very, very possible that they probably housed them. And also,
Mm.
I remember who brought the, what's the black basketball team? Where
Oh, the
red, white,
Harlem
and blue.
Globetrotters.
Huh?
Harlem
Yeah,
Globetrotters.
somebody brought them to the Civic Center. I remember that, but I don't know who did it.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now I know now that Hammond has kind of changed in the makeup of it used to be really in kind of an honest, you can walk around with your doors open,
That's
and
right.
it wasn't it wasn't like it is now, a
Yes,
scenario where you're kind of afraid of whatever.
that's
What do you
right.
think the main thing changed the makeup of how people think from yesteryear to now,
Well,
because you're
it's
more
like
guarded
anything.
now?
Yeah, it's like anything else. We were, I don't want to use the word inundated, but we got quite a few. When they tore down the Robert Taylor homes there in Chicago, Bobby, a lot of
Hmm.
those people migrated to East Hammond. And all of a sudden, that thing just changed. It just changed
Hmm.
because like you said, we used to could go around and we used to know everybody. People don't even know who we are. We started it. They'll say who, so and so. We don't know them and all. I don't know more than half the people that when I go over in East Hammond now and see them. But I do know that things really begin to change when those people from Chicago came over. It was a different type of lifestyle.
Hmm.
Different style. We never walked in the middle of the streets. We never hung out on corners. We were doing something and we were inside, whether it was in our homes, whether it was in our churches, whether it was in our backyards, family things. Now, like I say, the fighting and the shooting and it's terrible now. It's just awful.
Right. Is there any way, and I know that a lot of it deals with family, friends, and even if you were really close friends, you would
Uh-huh.
almost say that they're family.
Yes.
I mean,
Yes.
so it's and even the older generation and the younger generation still connect, because you guys are friends of my mother, and I can call you, and you know me, I know you, and that kind of
Right.
thing. And it's so. Is there anything the older generation? And I don't even know if there's an answer to this, but is there anything the older generation of the people who are from Hammond, their mainstay, their stables of Hammond, can do to kind of ingratiate the new people
The younger ones.
who live here, to make them feel a part of community?
Community, yeah.
So, yeah,
Well,
is there anything?
everything changes. Nothing stays the same. But when we were coming up, Bobby, we had family values. With
Hmm.
I hurt, you hurt, next door, down the street.
Hmm.
Now everybody seems to be in their own little world. Take care of me, take care of mine, and shut the door. Those days are
Right.
over because that's why I think there's such perilous times now. They just don't have the family values that we used to have years ago. They're gone. You got grandmothers at 33 years old. Ugh. And we were coming up, if somebody would have been a grandmother at 33, I wouldn't know what to say.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
that just blows my mind. A grandmother at 33. Our grandmothers was in their 60s.
Right.
Yeah, so I think it's all about family values.
Okay, so getting back to family values, and a lot of times maybe I feel that maybe the younger generation don't really want to hear it from us,
They don't.
and I mean, of what we have to say in terms of betterment and ethics, morals, that kind
Exactly.
of.
Exactly. Because when you ask them, and like you said, asking something about it, oh, I don't want to hear about that. We living in now. This is today. What about today? Well, but you still had to come from somewhere. There had to be an origin, you see? But they don't want to
Right.
hear that. So we're losing
Well,
it. We're losing it.
right. Like today at the NAACP function, they were really
No young adults
touting
were.
the idea of voting,
Yes.
and 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 if in fact, and there was even a table outside in case you didn't register, you could register.
Hmm.
And I think if you don't understand the importance of voting, that could slip right by you.
Exactly.
Um,
Exactly. And how
so
many young or youth did you see there?
not very many.
See? And
Uh,
years ago, our mothers would take us, comb our hair, and it'd be like all of us at one table with our kids. The lovelies were there, the cherries were there, everybody, the McClendons, everybody, your kids were there. You don't see these young kids and adults, 20s, 30s, at nothing. Every now and then,
right.
if it's a mega church, you'll see them. But all the smaller churches, they don't come to those anymore. They don't go to the megas. Lost
Yeah.
family values.
Right. Well, I guess it used to be you didn't have a choice, really. With
Exactly.
when my
Exactly.
mother and my grandmother said, "You will come,
Oh,
you
yes.
will be in church, and you will whatever," because I mean, you just it's either that or the belt, and
That's right.
whatever,
Yeah,
and you
yeah,
just
we didn't
went to
have
the
a choice.
belt.
Oh, you're going, and we didn't think nothing about it. We didn't walk around and pouting and everything and had to be begged. We knew that we had to be ready every Sunday morning for 9 o'clock to Sunday school. That was just a given. They don't
Right.
make them go now, and they're not going. It's that lost generation. And it's going
Right.
to continue because they're lost, so then their children are going to be lost.
Right.
I
Well,
wish
they
I
say
had
it's
an
like
answer of how to fix it, but it's too convoluted. It's hard,
yeah,
and it's in
and
all
it's
families. We got family. If just our family kids would come, our churches would be just packed.
oh, for sure,
Uh
for
huh.
sure. Yeah, it's and I just think that when babies have babies, maybe the babies who are having the babies haven't learned life skills and life
Exactly.
lessons, and so it's hard to teach younger generations
Exactly.
those lessons.
Exactly.
So it kind of like if for the people who are maybe listening to this transcript,
Uh huh.
understand that if they want to really learn the foundation of family,
Mhm.
society, how to better themselves, it starts with asking questions of the
Mhm.
older generation who've been through all of the doors you think you're going through.
Yeah.
That they may not know the technical things
Mhm.
because there's a lot of generation who you maybe have only graduated, maybe
Yeah.
sixth grade, seventh
Yep.
grade, maybe high school, if
Yes.
that. But
Yes.
the wiseness is way beyond the sixth grade
Yes, that's right.
scenario.
And then it's a matter of sitting down. I bet if you go to most of these families, 20 and 30 years, they don't even eat together anymore, Bobby. There's probably
Oh
no
yeah.
praying together. There's no tucking in bed anymore. All that, I
Mhm.
think, is gone. This is why we're in the shape that we're in, I believe. We used to sit down and have a meal, my mother and father, and most mother, when we were coming up, the parents sat down at the table. That was family time to discuss and see what happened at school today, and I don't see that happening in many, many households of these that are 20s, 30s, and even some in their 40s. Those
Mhm.
days are over.
Right. Right.
You're on
So,
your
so,
own,
so
it's here, get it. We don't have time to sit down and eat and talk, and it hurts. It really hurts.
right. Right.
Because I see it in
So
my family, the ones that are younger, that those days are gone. I said, well, where's everybody? How come nobody's eating? Oh, they just get a plate and warm it up. They go and
right. So if we were the guru of correcting things, So do you think, and just, I think everything starts at the family first.
Sure.
And, I mean, because if you disrespect at home, there's a great percentage of those who may go to school and disrespect the teacher,
Yes.
or anybody on the street, and this, that, and the other, because I just remember being, if I did something wrong, the neighbor could whoop my butt or somebody else would, and
Sure.
then they could tell me, they could bring me home, and I get another whooping.
That's right.
So,
But
but,
not now. If you tell
oh
somebody
yeah.
about their kid, they're going to cuss you out. Mind your own business. That's my son. That's my daughter. She wouldn't do that, and blah, blah. I tell you it's something.
Mm, mm. So, but anyway, let me just ask just a couple more questions. Are there any, do you remember any poignant stories or things that maybe your parents said to you, or any sayings that they said that you remember to this day that kind of made you a better person?
Oh,
Anything?
yes. There was a lot. I like the word respect. My mother and
Okay.
father had us respect each other. Sisters,
Mhm.
brothers, grandmothers, aunts. I
Mhm.
respect them, and I respect them to this day. There again, I can speak from my family now. These great greats that I have, they don't respect their elders. They don't respect anybody. They say it, and that's it, and it's over with. So I like the
Mm.
respect that my mother and father embedded in with us, and love for each other. You don't have to like somebody, but you must love them.
Mhm. Mhm. Love them enough to respect them.
That's right.
So,
And then the
so.
education value was there. My dad used to tell us, he said, when you get out of high school, go on to college. If you wait, he said, it's okay to get a degree at 40. But what happened to those 20 years in between? Go on and get it while you're at the age to do this. And so they instilled the education in us.
Okay, so
Mm-hmm.
respect, education, and can you know how the older generation had these little sayings, like it may have come from the South or whatever, but do you remember any ones that your father and mother used to say, like these old sayings that really meant a lot? Can
Mm-hmm.
you remember any of those?
Let me see if I can think of anything, because I know they probably did.
But you know what I'm talking about. There
Yeah,
may
I
be
do. I
cliches or
just
metaphors.
Yes, yes. Gosh, now can I think of something? Let's see. My father used to say something about life. But what was it? In life, something to the fact he would say, in life you're going to have some pitfalls, but don't. You're going to have some pitfalls, but don't be discouraged by them. Pull yourself up by your bootstraps and try it again. Something to that effect.
Okay.
Hmm.
Okay. Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Even
he would tell us there's not going to be a day that every day is going to be a perfect day. There's going to be some rain, but the storm will
mhm.
pass over. I remember him saying things like that.
Okay, and those are very poignant words. And even Donnie McClurkin did a song, "We Fall Down, but we get up,"
Yes,
kind
well,
of
we
thing
get
too.
up. Yes,
Right, and and the rain is gonna rain, so
that's
you just
right.
have to know that, but that too shall pass, kind of
That's
thing.
right. The sun will soon follow.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, good. I think we covered a lot of ground here,
Well, I
and
hope I've been
it,
helpful, and like I said,
you've
those
been.
things that I don't remember, maybe somebody else can, fill in the blanks.
Yeah, well, you know what? It's an accumulative effect between
Right.
all of the, and my goal is to do, a little over 100 people
Okay.
in Hammond, and then, when Teddy's joining in when doing some too, and then at that point, what we're talking about today will be transcribed and put into books, and they will go into the library,
Oh,
and then also
fantastic.
the audio portion of this will be available as
I was
well.
going to say you're going to do something with a disc of some type, or?
Yes, yes.
Mm-hmm,
It's going to be
mm-hmm.
able to. We're going to be able to make a kiosk or something, so you can go
Okay.
in and see Fran Blackman or Alexander,
Good.
and then you push their name, and then you hear this conversation. It's more also for research purposes,
All
like
right.
20 years from now, where high school students may be given an assignment, find
Okay.
out about East Hammond,
East
and
Hammond.
so
Mm-hmm.
now it's you can go to a specific resource as
Okay.
opposed to, because after all the Jewel Alexanders are gone and all
Exactly.
all those Pearline Jenkins and Miss
That's
Terrys,
right.
and after all those historical people who have the history in their minds, the Julia Loveleys and the Ed Loveleys and all
That's
those
right.
people, there's nobody to grab a hold of
That's right.
to get that information. So
Mm-hmm.
that's what
Mm-hmm.
this project is really
Well, I
for.
am very proud of you for doing it, and I'm encouraging you to continue on.
Well, thank you. And if by chance you run across anyone you think that has information
Okay.
that we can have a conversation, either text me their name and number, and
All
because the
right.
only way I can do this is by references, because it's not like
Exactly.
I have everybody's number. So,
Exactly. Exactly.
but if you run across, just feel free to let me know, and I'll call them. I'll
Okay.
let them turn me down.
Okay.
So,
And then also, if there's, in your case, same thing, if you call and say, Fran, I'm trying to get in touch with blah, blah, I probably can help you do that.
okay. Oh, that'll be
Mm-hmm.
great. Yeah, and
Okay.
it's funny because today I wanted to run across Miss Burns, Mary Burns,
Yeah.
and I said, "Oh my God, she's right over there." And so
Uh-huh.
I immediately, before I sat down and ate, I ran over there and got her number. So that appointment's set up. So
Good. She'll
this
be
was
also very instrumental. Mm-hmm.
Oh, yes, yes.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Like I said, the library does have articles on Reverend Burns, but, to have an account from his wife of all the things that he's done is
Sure.
better than an article. So,
Exactly.
in my opinion. But thank you very much for your participation, and I really appreciate it. And the people in the future, students in the future, will, I'm sure, appreciate your input.
Good. Okay, Bobby. Anytime.
Okay.
And tell
Okay,
your
thank
mom,
you.
hey.
Okay. Oh,
All
I
right.
certainly will. Okay,
Okay.
bye-bye.
Bye-bye.